Welcome to Carlton's Math Corner. Today we are going to talk about the coordinate plane. At this time, make sure that you are ready to learn and you have your math journal as well as your vocabulary packet. Well, let's start off with our first target today. I can identify the axes and the quadrants of a coordinate plane. First of all, let's talk about what a coordinate plane is. Well, a coordinate plane is taking two axes or number lines and intersecting them. And if you notice, so here's one axis, and this is the x-axis, and then here is the other, this is the y-axis. Now notice, to the right we have positive numbers, and then to the left we have negative numbers. And then going up, positive numbers, going down, negative numbers. And notice when they intersect, they make 90-degree angles. And they also create four equal quadrants. And this is called quadrant number 1, quadrant number 2, number 3, and then number 4. And I know they're written in Roman numerals. In your notes, you can just write the number 1, 2, 3, 4. But what I want you to notice is that they actually create a C. Like if I start in quadrant 1 and I go all the way around to quadrant 4, it makes a C. And the C, I like to think, represents coordinate plane, C for coordinate plane. So just remember that this is always quadrant 1, and then you follow it around. Now these quadrants are important because what they tell us is something about what points are going to be plotted in those quadrants. So if you look at, first of all, the origin is right in the middle. So that is where the two axes intersect. And then quadrant number 1, what I want you to notice is that all the numbers to the right and all the numbers up are positive. So we will have points in there that have positive coordinates. And we'll talk about what those are in just a moment. And then in quadrant number 2, we're going to have positive and negative coordinates. And then down here in quadrant 3, notice they're all negative numbers. And so all the coordinates that we work with are going to be negative for this quadrant. And then this last number 4, we have positive and negative coordinates. And so will you please make sure that you copy down this entire graph, because your target is that you can memorize these and tell me which quadrant each one is and which axis. And so please record that, including the origin, and write down the definition of quadrant, that it's, the 4 regions on a coordinate plane. And then, try to memorize them, okay? Now, on a coordinate plane, I had mentioned that there's coordinates, or we call them ordered pairs. And so here's our next term. An ordered pair is a pair of numbers used to locate a point on a coordinate plane. There's an infinite number of points on this coordinate plane. This coordinate plane actually, do you notice how it is made up of all these different, it's made up of a line, and lines, remember, go infinitely in both directions. So that means I could extend this coordinate plane in the positive direction infinitely, and I could extend it negatively, infinitely as well. So we need, some kind of key that helps us to find a point on a coordinate plane that, is infinite in both directions. And so that's what these ordered pairs are, is it's kind of like a map, telling us where to go so that we can find a point on there. Now, the first coordinate of the ordered pair is called the x-coordinate. And I like to think, x, and then there's the other one that's y coordinate, that's the second one. And I want you to know that x-coordinate, alphabetically, if I was looking this up in a dictionary, would come before y. And so just remember that it is alphabetical, because we can't mix these up. We can't put a y coordinate first and then the x, because that is a totally different map. That shows us different directions, and we would not land on the same point. So x always come first, and I try to think of things, I love, anything that's marine, any kind of marine life. And so X for X-ray fish, that would come before yellow moray eel in a dictionary. And so X for X-ray fish, Y for yellow moray eel. And so when we are using these basically, this coordinate, the X coordinate, shows us how to move on the X axes. Remember back here, this was the X axis. And so it shows us which direction to move, right or left. Now the Y coordinate, so the second one, it shows us which way to move on the Y axis, so up or down. And so that's our next target, is that I can use coordinates or ordered pairs to plot points on a coordinate plane. And so what we're going to do is we're going to plot these 3 points, 3, 6, -5, 2, and 4, 0. And so I'm going to get a highlighter so we can see it a little bit better. And we're going to start always in the origin. That's number 1. We're going to start always right here. This is our starting point. I'm not going to put a point there though, because we never put a point until the end, until we actually move right or left and then up or down. Okay? And so remember the first ordered pair is called the X coordinate, and that's always what we begin with. After we start at the origin, we begin with the X coordinate. So the X coordinate in this ordered pair is 3, and it's +3. So if you look at the X axis, positives go to the right. So we're going to move 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3. And then notice the Y coordinate is our third step. It's the next thing, and it's a +6. And so positive on the Y axis moves up. And so we're going to move up 6, and I'm going to count the spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going to put a dot because that is where or my ending spot, I should say, for my ordered pair. And so that is the only place I put a point. Now let's do the next one. -5, 2. Start in the origin and move left -5, because notice on the x-axis we got to go to the left to get to the negatives. So we count 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we have a +2. And that means we got to go up again, +2. And then I put a dot. Our last one is 4, 0. Now 4, start in the beginning, we go to the right 4. Now notice the y-axis is actually 0. Or the y-coordinate, I should say, is 0. And that means I'm not going to be moving on the y-axis at all. And I am just going to put a dot at, I'm not going to move. I'm just going to put a point of where I was. So this would be 4, 0. Now let's talk, what quadrant is this point in? 3, 6, what quadrant is this in? Yeah, quadrant 1. How about this quadrant? -5, 2. Quadrant 2. And this is a tricky one. What quadrant is 4, 0 in? Yeah, it's not in a quadrant. It actually lies on the x-axis. So that would be my answer, is the x-axis. And so it kind of lies between 2 quadrants in this case, quadrant number 1 and quadrant number 4. But my answer would be the x-axis. It just lies right on that. Okay, let's look at our next one. Graph and label the following points. Well, we have 2, -5, so to the right 2 and down 5. And I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to put a dot there. And I'm going to leave the label for right now because my marker it's kind of hard to write. I can type it. I could do 2, -5. Okay, how about the next one? We have 3, -4, so to the right 3, down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll label them in just a moment. 0, 1, start in the center. 0 means I don't move right or left. And then up 1, and there's my point. And then 5, 0, right 5, and then I stay right there. Okay, so, and then I can label these 0, 1, and this one was 3, -4, and this one was 5, 0. So when you're doing an assignment, I do want you to label your points so that we don't get them confused with other points. Okay, now let's look at our next target. It says write the ordered pair that corresponds to each point. Okay, so your target is I can identify the coordinates of a point plotted on a coordinate plane. Now we're going backwards. All the points are plotted. All you have to do is tell me what the ordered pairs are. So remember, start in the beginning, start at the origin. So we start in the middle, and then we're going to just move to get to the next, to get to a point. And sometimes what helps is by drawing an L, because it kind of shows you the path that you took. Notice I went to the right and then I went up. So that means whenever I move to the right, that's a positive number. And when I move up, that's a positive number as well. And so I went right 2, so it's a positive 2. And then I went up 1, 2, 3, 4. And so my answer is 2, 4, positive 2, positive 4. Okay, how about the next one? Let's do this one way over here. And we're not going to do all of these, but let's at least do a few of them. And I'm going to start in the middle, in the origin, and I'm going to move and make my L. Even if it's not perfect, I want to make an L. And I'm going to count. I'm going to the left, and notice I'm on top of negative numbers. And so I need to know that my number first is going to be negative. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. -6, and then we go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, positive 7. So my answer is -6 and positive 7. And let's do one last one. Let's do this one that's lying right here on the axis. If I start in the middle and I am moving to that spot, notice I'm only going a straight line. There's not going to be an L. And so what that means is I am moving to the right 5, but I'm not moving up or down, so I am going to stay at 0. Okay? Now, what I would like for you to look at this next one, this is called a Cartesian graph, and we use a coordinate plane to actually locate different spots on a map. This is a different map though. Notice there's numbers on the side and then letters on the bottom. And each one has, these are rows and then these are columns. And notice when they intersect, they actually come to the center and find a location. So it says what is located at E5. So if I go over to E and I go up to 5, here's 5, notice what do they intersect at? They intersect at City Park. So my answer would be City Park. That's the location for City Park. What is the location for J7? Well, I'll go over to J. It's kind of like you're playing Battleship, if you've ever played that. And we go up to 7. And so notice we're at Moon River. And then it says, where is the water plant located? Well, if I go over, here's water plant. So it says go over, if I go over 1, or to A, and I go up to 6, I hit the water plant, and then I also hit it at B6. So I would say A6 and B6 for that one. A6, oops, A6 and B6, because they kind of share that location. Okay, so this, I mean, we use coordinate planes even just for graphing. What I would like for you to do tomorrow is complete these follow exit tickets. And so thank you so much for joining me at Carleton's Math Corner, and I look forward to meeting with you again.